Guess what the Cleveland Browns just did? They made some sneaky roster moves. You're not going to want to miss what those are and what that could mean for the team ahead of the NFL trade deadline. Welcome into the Browns Report, everybody. I am your host, Joey O'Donoghue, here to give you the latest, here to tell you the rumors and the news about your Cleveland Browns. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. But first, before we get into that, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're pushing to 57K already. Once again, another milestone in the balance. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Join the party. It's free. Nearly 57,000 other people have done it. Come on and party with us here on the Browns Report, folks. If you want the latest Cleveland Browns news, you'll be the smartest Browns fan in the room. Okay, here's the first move that the Cleveland Browns made. They tweeted it out. Said, we have claimed tight end Brendan Bates, our old friend, via waivers and waived cornerback Jarek Bernard-Converse, who had been inactive the past few game days, so that's not really a surprise. But you claim a tight end off waivers, and then what do the Browns do? Well, earlier, yesterday, they signed Caden Prieskorn to the practice squad and released Armani Marshall, preseason standout running back. We're going to miss him. They weren't using him, though. But that's two tight ends that the Cleveland Browns have now claimed and signed to the roster in one day. What's going on here? Is something up? I'll play my my Brian Windhorst speculation here. This is suspicious, right? It seems a name in our tight end room, known as David Njoku, has been in trade talks for a long time now. Could this be the Cleveland Browns adding two tight ends in a day to make a big move? Remember, Adam Schefter listed David Njoku as a trade candidate in an article on ESPN. We made a video on that here on the show. It's not crazy to assume that this move is coming in the near future now, folks. At least that those two sneaky moves could suggest it. And remember what Adam Schefter said about David Njoku. Not only was he listed as a trade candidate, but that list of trade candidates that he made was a list that entailed NFL front office executives and coaches said could be available ahead of the trade deadline. So he dove in. There are multiple Cleveland Browns on that list. David Njoku was the first one there. I'm not saying the move's going to happen. I'm saying it's realistic to be talking about it on today's show based on the rumors and based on the tight end moves the Browns just made yesterday, folks. I mean, you're going to want to keep up with this because the Cleveland Browns, they're sellers at the deadline, according to multiple reports. And if you look at Week 8 against the Patriots, the snap count for the Browns tight ends, Harold Fannin Jr. led the way. 40 snaps, that's 74% of the snaps. David Njoku was second to Fannin with 32 and 59% of the snaps. And Blake Whiteheart's getting involved. 8 snaps for 15% of them. The first 3 weeks of the season, Blake Whiteheart was nowhere to be seen. Week 1, he had 3 snaps, followed that up with 4, and then down to 2. I mean, non-factor through the first 3 weeks. How has that changed? In the last 3 weeks, Whiteheart's increased. 22 snaps in Week 6, 27% of them. 35 in Week 7, 61% of the snaps for Whiteheart. Now, David Njoku was injured, of course. But Week 8, Njoku returns. Whiteheart's still getting in the balance much more than he was earlier in the season. And so, obviously, these 2 weeks perhaps impacted by Njoku injury, but that's all the more reason that they would trade Njoku if he's starting to get hurt and getting a little bit older. And why is David Njoku a trade candidate? Why have we talked about it so much? Well, he's on a contract year. I think that is the biggest part of this rumor, is that he's a free agent in 2026. And he's coming off a $55 million extension, ladies and gentlemen. That's an expensive player to pay in the offseason. And a lot of reports are suggesting that Harold Fannin Jr. is the tight end of the future for the Cleveland Browns. He's out snapping in Njoku now, as I just showed you. He is a reception machine. He led the Cleveland Browns in receiving on Sunday. It might be the truth that Cleveland can't afford to pay an aging David Njoku in that offseason. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you a mock trade that Sports Illustrated put out for Njoku to go to the Rams, what that would look like, and some more insight on whether or not the Cleveland Browns will make this move with David Njoku. I've got a lot more reasons that you're not going to want to look at, but that you're going to want to look at. But first, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on. Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Football is in full swing now on Sundays. All is right with the world, and I'm big into daily fantasy with Prize Picks. I'm obsessed with it because it makes all the games more entertaining, and before the Browns play, I lock in on all my players in my lineup and their player projections. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. And that happened to me on Monday night, and I won. Here's my lineup. Matt Gay did not play, and so that pick was voided. But Patrick Mahomes had more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Travis Kelce had more than 41.5 receiving yards. I won some money last night. You guys can too. But to do so, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Here is the trade that Sports Illustrated proposed for David Njoku. The Cleveland Browns would get a 5th-round pick next year and a 6th-round pick the year after that. The Rams would get David Njoku and a 6th-round pick this year. Really? Okay, this is what worries me. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this BS deal, Sports Illustrated. If you do this, we're just tanking. It's over. I mean, you're going to give away David Njoku for what, nothing? A 5th-round pick? And we still have to give him a pick later? What are we doing? You'd be trading away one of our only weapons on offense on an offense that's awful. What a BS trade. I'm not doing that. I want a little bit more value if we're going to trade David Njoku. But that is what worries me, though, about this move, right? You're probably starting to realize that the Cleveland Browns offense is not going to help them contend at all. So sure, you'll make the move. But if we get nothing in return for him, a 5th, a 6th, no way, no how. Now you're just giving up an impact player. Now, I'm not against the idea of trading David Njoku, though. Let me preface it with that. There's a couple reasons we're going to look at here that show you it's not the worst thought. He turns 30 next year. He's 29 years old. Next July, he'll be a 30-year-old man. He may leave in the offseason. I told you he's on a contract year. Well, what if he doesn't re-sign with the Cleveland Browns? Now, you lose David Njoku for absolutely nothing, and the 5th-round pick sounds pretty good. He's also starting to deal with some injuries, as I talked about a little bit earlier on the show. The knee injury was getting to him. Didn't play in Week 7. It's definitely not a bad idea to consider exploring your options for David Njoku. So I'm not against the trade at all. Due to those reasons, due to the fact that he's going to be a free agent, I absolutely could see the Cleveland Browns making a move. But I want value. I want more value than a 5th and a pick swap. At least we should get a 4th for Njoku. I'd like a 3rd, knowing how talented he is. And a team that's pushing like the Rams, a team that's actually going to make noise this year, especially in the NFC, could get an athletic beast of a tight end like David Njoku for this year to help them make the push. Pay us a 3rd. Njoku against the Patriots upped his trade value a little bit. He caught a touchdown from Dylan Gabriel. I mean, literally, the Browns had what? Only 2 touchdowns? Njoku was one of them. Fannin was the other. It's the tight end show in Cleveland. I think they put him in, try and boost him up a little bit. Averaged 9.2 yards per reception in that game. Teams know about his ability. If he was used in the right offense, the right system, he'd be one of the top tight ends in the league. No doubt about that in my mind. The Athletic, let me remind you, lists the Cleveland Browns as sellers before the deadline. They expect us to make moves. I expect us to make moves before the trade deadline. A lot of reports are suggesting that. We're just getting ready, buckling up for when the Cleveland Browns make that move. Here's what The Athletic had to say about some Browns trade rumors. It is not to insinuate that a full fire sale is coming or that the Browns will aggressively try to shop their best players. But it's long been clear that the focus in Cleveland is on the future. And with so many players in the final year of their current contracts, the Browns will listen when the phone rings. Now, like they said, it's not a full fire sale, but they really expect us to make some moves, to trade players away. Browns fans, I ask you, what percent chance do you give the Browns to trade David Njoku by the NFL trade deadline? You know the percent scale. It could be 1% all the way up to 100% that this is definitely happening. Give me your percentage in that comment section. I'm going to go through, see what you guys are thinking. Like I said, there's plenty of reasons that suggest he could be traded. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it's likely, more likely than not at this point. Give me 60%. Straight up, 60. For the reasons I presented. I want the value, though, if we're going to trade David Njoku. Folks, thank you so much for being with me here on the Browns Report, diving into the latest rumors, the sneaky roster moves that the Browns are making. I mean, signing those 2 tight ends should tell you something, right? Njoku on the move. Perhaps if that is the case, make sure you are subscribed because I'll hop on here immediately when it happens and tell you why and tell you what. So thank you so much for tuning in, Browns fans. Appreciate all of you being a part of the channel. Hit that sub button, and we'll see you very shortly here on the next Browns Report.